Now the top news stories this Saturday night.
Firefighters call off strikes for more talks over pay. 100 hostages die as Moscow's siege ends in a shootout. And after the gales, Britons brace for more stormy weather.
The ITV Weekend News with Andrea Catherwood.
Good evening. Firefighters tonight dramatically called off the strike planned for next week. The union said it was to allow more time for talks on pay. Kevin Dunn is at a fire station. Kevin.
Well, the first two 48-hour strikes were due to begin on Tuesday and on November the 2nd, but they were suddenly called off after a secret meeting of the Fire Brigade's union's executive.
Tonight at stations across the country, firefighters debated their union's decision. Most said they hoped it meant progress.
I hope that they've been suspended for the right reasons and that the government have come to their senses and they've made us a decent offer.
The government has simply bought time, but we would expect the government now to make a meaningful and a focused effort on making us an offer and discussing seriously the issue of pay.
The strikes were suspended after the FBU's General Secretary, Andy Gilchrist, reported on progress made in talks yesterday and Thursday with the Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott. Mr. Prescott intervened as Army Green Goddesses were being mobilised to take over emergency fire cover from Tuesday. Tonight, Mr. Prescott said, "I am delighted the FBU has agreed to sit down with employers for talks on pay and modernisation. I hope that this can now lead to a final settlement of the dispute." The FBU and local authority employers will hold talks on Wednesday and Thursday, though the threat remains of a strike beginning on November the 6th if no progress is made.
So, Kevin, what kind of substance do you think is behind the Fire Brigade union's turnaround?
Well, crucial to this development, I think, is the statement by John Prescott that the independent review of pay and practices is to be brought forward. Now, you'll recall the firefighters did not want to wait for that review to report only in mid-December. So there appears to have been crucial progress on the timing of that review, though it has to be said that we must assume that the two sides remain far apart on the issue of how big a pay rise the firefighters should get.
Kevin Dunn, thank you very much. Now, at least 100 of the hostages held by Chechen rebels in the Moscow theatre died today when Russian special forces stormed the building. 2 Britons, though, survived and were among some 700 captives freed. Our correspondent in Moscow, Neil Connery, watched the drama unfold.
6 a.m. at the Moscow theatre siege and Russian special forces stormed the building. Inside, the Chechen separatists had just killed 2 captives. For the 700 hostages, this was to be the final and bloody act in a story of unimaginable terror. Explosives wired up by the armed gang were made safe. Sleeping gas had been pumped into the theatre to overpower the Chechens. The first hostages to emerge were dazed and traumatized as the rescue operation continued. After all the gunfire and explosion, a stream of ambulances are now arriving at the scene. The security forces appear to be tightening their grip around this theatre. 50 of the hostage takers were killed in the shootout, including their leader, Movsar Barayev. The Russian troops treated their bodies with contempt. 3 of the group were arrested and led away. The hostages were loaded onto buses, still suffering from the effects of the sleeping gas used by the troops. Russian television showed the scene inside the theatre, including the bombs and mines which the Chechens had threatened to detonate. Nearly 100 out of the 700 hostages trapped here were killed in the chaos of the rescue mission. 2 Britons, Sadiqa Lowe and her son Richard, escaped unharmed, along with 73 other foreign nationals. All were taken to hospitals for checkups. But these have been dark days for Russia, and for now, this country, its capital, and most of those caught up in this drama can only feel relief. Neil Connery, ITV News, Moscow.
Gale force winds and heavy rain are expected to batter most of Britain again tonight. Southern England and Wales will be worst hit. Gusts could reach 80 miles an hour. Damon Green reports.
Listing dangerously, a cargo ship limps into port. Just one casualty of the gale force winds which have battered the south coast and are set to do yet more damage tonight. The Cypriot-registered Bothnia Stone had to dump 1,500 cubic metres of its timber cargo just to save itself from sinking before finding a safe anchorage at Torbay in Devon. Weather forecasters are blaming a deep depression sweeping in off the Atlantic. Storms will hit the south coast within hours.
We'll see the winds picking up through this evening and through tonight, and then tomorrow we'll see strong west to southwesterly winds across southern parts of the country, England and Wales, gusting up to 70 or 80 miles per hour, even 90 miles per hour through places like the Bristol Channel, and that's enough to cause structural damage to some buildings.
That could mean a repeat of the scenes which greeted residents of one Hampshire town yesterday when a tornado ripped through the quiet streets of Portsea, damaging over 100 homes. With some ferry services already cancelled in anticipation of the gales, weathermen are hoping the worst will have blown over by tomorrow. Damon Green, ITV News.
Well, that's it from all the team here. Goodbye.